As we enter talking about the final of the three cars to arrive in GT7's 1.15 update, we of course get to an interesting one. Winner of the GT award, many years ago now at this point, we have the Rampage Camaro. Of course based around a 1970 kind of era Camaro, which is one of my favourite shapes for that model, and this one has way more power, unsurprisingly, than a stock vehicle, and it is essentially kind of a cross between a drift car and a time attack car. It has elements of both, it's pretty good for doing both things, and along with many of the other award winners, such as the time attack Subaru, it has a little bit of a different vibe to it, to many other cars in the game. Now, of course, that could easily go either way. It could be absolutely fantastic and turn into a vehicle which is invaluable to winning certain events super easily or being crazy OP for a certain price. But then the flip side of that is, you pretty much know you're going to have people who are going to treat this in essentially the same way as a Vision GT car, which is, what is this? We didn't ask for this. It's semi-useless, you know, all these kind of things that would be said. So the question is the car good? Is it useful? Is it useless? What is this thing like? Well, for the price tag of 300,000 credits, it's a significant undercutting of the other two cars. 1 million credits for the Suzuki, 3 million for the Toyota, only 300,000 here. This, I have no doubt, would have been one of the 750,000 credit cars back in Gran Turismo 6, like the Bossie Camaro and the Trans Cam Mustang. This one, though, is adjusted to be similar to stuff like the Mach 40, now in this game, and of course featured in GT Sport as well. This one does have a distinctly more competition vibe to it, though, than many of those do. The Nova, the Mustang, they very much feel like show cars, customs, very quick ones and very capable ones for certain things. This one, though, feels much more on that Subaru, the Time Attack version, the Isle of Man car, or even the Drift Subaru, the BRZ as well. It's more purposeful in that way. Now, in terms of the performance points, this one is 668. So it's quite high, but it has just under 750 horsepower. So that makes sense. And when you tune this thing up, you're looking at around the 1,000 horsepower region. So on paper, at least, it's looking good. In terms of the weight, it's not crazy heavy, but it's certainly no flyweight at just over 1,400 kilos, and in its standard form it is naturally aspirated. Although, of course, a car like this is really begging for a twin turbo or a huge supercharger, but in terms of actual performance, that's where things get a little bit odd, because the reason why I said this has kind of a drift car vibe as well is that yes, it is very quick, it's much more purposeful around corners than any road-going Camaro would ever be, but at the same time, the top speed is not all that high, at least before you tune it, and of course, you can change that, but it's around the 170, 175 mile an hour kind of region, which isn't really that impressive for its power. The acceleration is good, but it's not necessarily as monstrous as the power might suggest. It's certainly no drag car, and the handling, although nimble and fairly neutral as far as body roll, which is good, is definitely more inclined toward being a drift car. It loves to step its tail out, and that's not bad by any stretch. In fact, I'm sure a ton of people will use this as one of their drift cars of choice, maybe even a great drift car, but it does mean that the car is almost working against itself sometimes. So yes, it's fast, yes, it's powerful, it certainly looks the part as like a Pikes Peak style car almost, but the actual performance, the top end speed, the handling, it definitely needs a bit of tuning. Now with tuning, you can make this much more of a purposeful car, but straight out of the crate, don't expect this thing to be as nuts as the visuals would suggest. In terms of the GT Award winners, it is one of the more powerful ones and certainly has pretty high potential compared to something like a vintage race car or a hot rod or a custom of some kind. So I'd say that overall it's not a bad addition of car. The problem that I foresee for many players harkens back to what I said at the start of the video, and that is that who was really asking for this? It's cool to have it. The Time Attack Civic, which of course we were supposed to have a long time ago, would also be cool, but these cars are so niched that you either absolutely love it or just don't care about it at all, much like the Vision GTs. So, for me personally, and perhaps for some of you as well, I would honestly have much rather had a normal Camaro, like a completely unmodified version of this car, because it would have been more useful, and also more authentic to, just having a normal Camaro in the game. It's not to say that I'm ungrateful for this car, which it certainly sounds like. I'm just saying that if you want to appeal to a wider scope of players, and have more people enjoy the cars that you're adding to the game, well, the broad strokes tend to be the ones that are for more folks. Now with that in mind, I would say that this is a car which is not an essential purchase. You can pick this one up if you want to try something different, but as far as from what I've seen, and by all means correct me if I'm wrong, if certain people have found this to be some all-conquering machine, then absolutely put that down in the comments and specify what particular event you find it good for, or what kind of competition. But overall, like I said, I don't think it's an essential car. This is the kind of car which you should buy if you really find it intriguing and want to try it out. If this car naturally appeals to you, then give it a look. Just don't expect too much of it, and you won't be disappointed. In effect, much like many of the other custom cars in the game, like your Mac 40s, etc. So overall, that's it for my thoughts on the Rampage Camaro. I certainly would love to see more of these GT award winners come to the game, especially some of those old school, I believe it was open wheel Grand Prix style machines, because that really would be something totally different. But that's it for my thoughts on this car. Of course, stick around on the channel for more, and of course, some tunes for vehicles in the game as well. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.